sign up. There is the sign up sheet. Get your email address and phone number. I'll send you this meeting announcement. I'll send you this in the form of a mail message every week. And you can also the club calendar on meetup.com. It'll tell you what's going on for this week. Announcement website, which is what we're doing. This is the meeting that you'll get the email for. And I'll tell you what we're doing. And when I update it, and I try to update it after the meeting for days, and you can see what's on our mind and what's coming up, and hopefully it's updated by at least by the time I mail it to you. For the meeting announcement. Meeting videos. Leroy does a video every week. That's Leroy there. Here you'll be. Pass that to him if you would. And so if you miss the meeting and you want to watch it, heaven forbid, you can do so. We don't publish that to the entire universe, but we do when you come in, we'll show it to you so you'll know what to expect. Also, there's a Google Plus group which Leroy chairs, and you'll see Club Google Plus discussion guide. That's right up there. That fourth item there. I got a little quick news notes. Stuff that we run across. I meant to put Leroy. That was a good LoRa article that you had. I meant to put that in the news. Oh, quick news. For the guys that don't know what LoRa is, we've discussed it a couple of times. And what we're going to do this week, Frank Hill, is how to create a small Android app using Android Studio. The two new guys, introduce yourself if you would.
I'm Naveen. I work with Fidelity in Covington. I'm basically like a backend developer.
You're a what?
A backend developer, so do a lot of Java microservices.
Oh, okay. Cool.
My name is Kevin. I live here in Springdale, not far away, and I'm a product manager for a section of a CAD/CAM software product. So I've been tangled up with that for many, many years in different roles, but it's my current role.
Okay.
As a dev team in the past, but I'll get more.
Okay, sounds like we got a couple of heavy duties for us. We have a mix here, and members, introduce yourselves.
Don Corbett, I'm the coordinator for the Adult IT program at Warren County Career Center.
Where?
Warren County Career Center.
You don't need County.
Lebanon. Formerly of the Kings Island area, and they closed that one down.
Yeah. Oh, they did.
Yeah, turned it into a daycare.
Same. No. Okay, Leroy.
I'm Leroy.
He's Leroy.
I
do
stuff.
He's like vice president of the club. If you don't see me here, it's
de facto vice president.
Yeah.
President of Vice.
When you remember.
Woo.
He had a lot of vices, so why not?
Um,
Next to me. Cool.
I tinker a lot with a lot of various electronics and whatever.
He'll do a lot of presentations. He's done a lot of Android. He's been Raspberry Piing on us. LoRa. What's LoRa?
LoRa, long range, low powered radio.
Yeah, it's kind of come up.
Got about 6 miles off of my set, maybe 6.5 miles off of my set.
What?
Which is pretty good considering that it's almost no power, like 0.5 milliwatt or something.
Wow.
Very low.
And I did not use good antennas, and
Yeah.
I gave it the worst possible chance to fail, and still got about 6.5 miles off of it.
We were impressed by the
I was
distance.
I was really impressed.
Line of sight.
I have no idea what I'm going to do with it.
It's a slow speed, but high distance.
Yeah, it's an interesting compression.
I get that article in the quick news because that was good.
Well, that I was actually the ESP8266s have their own internal protocol to do
Laura.
something long distance like that. I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
Whoa.
and that's what that was about, was he was comparing it between the two.
Is that in the, one of the libraries that?
Yeah, apparently I just started seeing a bunch of posts about it, so maybe it's brand new. I don't know, but
I haven't seen it yet.
This came across the Google Plus for the website. So if you guys are interested, take a look at that.
it's one of those 2-3 weeks from now, when I'm done playing around with the Raspberry Pis, we're probably going to do.
So this is how we
Something like that.
communicate after the zombie apocalypse.
Yes,
There it is.
pretty much.
Well, Vicente, who's in the group, he has a friend that works in a mine, and they keep track of the men in the mine using LoRa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a really neat protocol.
Really different concept. Mind blower. Good. Good. He did an excellent project on that. Excellent topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name's Mike. I'm retired. I'm not a geek, but I like hanging around it. I like you guys. And my brother worked at Fidelity for about 8 years. Quality assurance. It's a big place, though, so.
Yeah, I've been that for like 6 years now.
Okay.
My name is Frank Hill. I'm probably classified as a geek. In the old days, I would be called a hacker, when hacking meant something different.
That's right.
People
When it was a good thing.
When it was a good thing, you know. And I actually have a computer camp now for high schoolers. And actually, this is going to be one of the projects for it. Last year, I did this thing in Windows Phone. Android Studios has just been a hassle. And so I figured I had to master it, because nobody has a Windows Phone.
There's that.
Windows Phone?
Yeah, I also like the Internet of Things, and eventually I want to connect Android apps up to the Internet of Things.
Sure.
I have my sump pump on the web. It generates reports, and it communicates with a web service every 15 minutes status. And then I have reports that I can get. And I also get email, if something is out of range. I have the threshold set lower because I just like to see email.
Right, yeah.
But it's kind of fun stuff to do.
Very cool.
And this presentation is about 27 minutes. And it's actually, I can't imagine doing this and just going from beginning to end. Because when you're using Android Studios in particular, stuff goes wrong. And so if you do it in a video, if it goes wrong, you just do it over again. I'm also very familiar with Visual Studio. I've used that for years. And I'm able to use Visual Studio a lot better than Android Studio. But Android Studio has gotten better. I mean, the version now compared to 2 years ago, because I started to use it 2 years ago and just really got nowhere. It is more stable. It's more like Android Studios, even though not there. So I'm going to go through this, and it's actually going to be, let's see if I can get back to the beginning.
You want to connect that up again?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you need to grab the Chrome. We've got Chrome. We've got our own router. So if anybody ever wanted to do a presentation or something, it makes it real. Well, I won't say real, so it makes it simpler.
Except for when I use it. And I'm learning the error of my ways. I'm learning the network throughput is not good enough to watch a video over the network.
Yeah.
So and I was trying to do that and some other things.
It's
Just
also
can't do that.
the router we've got it's a relatively inexpensive router, and
I think the router's okay.
having 2 or 3, having a bunch of people connect to it causes problems. If only one person or 2 people connect, it's all right.
This is having trouble connecting now.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me disconnect.
Oh, you connected?
It doesn't care normally, but
There it goes. It's doing something. It's doing something.
There you go, Frank.
He looks familiar.
oh, there you go.
Oh, there I am. Oh, do I need to do something with volume?
It's not real loud, maybe.
Android, and the tool is going to be Android Studios, and the application is a basketball ticket application. You input the number of tickets, and the application will calculate the price and taxes and associated data. So let's take a look at what the application looks like now. As I'm going to show you the screen, and then we'll go through the steps of actually creating the application with Android Studios. This picture shows you what the finished product will look like. The rest of the video goes on to describe how we get there. Okay. We're going to create a small Android native mobile app. And as always, the environment for development needs to be set properly. And in this case, what it involves is downloading and installing Android Studio 3.1. After initial install, you're going to be prompted to update your current install.
That's one of the discouraging things, is that it's installed, but there's all this other stuff that has to go on, and you just keep messing
install
with it.
until all updates are completed. You'll also need to find an emulator that works well with your computer.
If you have a slow computer, it's not going to work right.
These emulators work well on newer computers that have this version of Android. If your debugging runs slow, you'll have to get a physical tablet or phone. Use that for debugging. You are now ready to follow instructions for this video. And if you have trouble with the installation procedure above, go to Google and put in keywords for whatever problem you're having. Okay, the title of this application will be Basketball Tickets, and the application has a simple task of collecting the number of tickets, calculating the total price, and applying a discount if the number of tickets is.
Now, you get to complain about the app because it's not perfect.
Applying a 20%
I see
discount
flaws myself, but
the number of tickets is greater than
it's for some 15-year-olds. So.
Okay, I'm going to open up Android Studios. It's stable now, this version is. And see it coming up. New project. And I'm going to call it.
All those settings take a little bit of getting used to it, just knowing where things are and where they go.
L.
This is sort of your indicator that you're at least ready to do something. So you can do one of these hello world things, and it actually comes up, and you can.
That's all I need to do.
Before, it would take me weeks.
It has a domain name, but that name doesn't really matter. It could be anything. Click next.
The project location by default, go to.
There's a default folder.
And it gives me a chance to pick the earliest version of Android. So I'm going to pick.
There's also a fair, I didn't talk about it, there are a fair number of sample applications that you can load in. Just
of devices.
make sure you convince yourself that it works.
It's going to be a phone or tablet, so I'll click next. And now I want to get a basic activity. Next again. And it gives me an activity name and a layout name. The main activity is where code is going to be. And then I'll just click finish. And it's actually building an app for me now. And now it's built. Okay, the application is up now, and it doesn't have any new content, but what I'm going to show you is what it looks like in the emulator before you add any code.
Basically, hello world.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run the emulator and test the application as it is now with no additional code, just a template. So I'm going to run. We're going to click on debug.
This is a place where you could also select your phone instead of selecting the emulator.
And the emulator's not totally up, but it's working.
This is a pretty fast computer, and it comes up. But I have
And
other
now
computers where I have to
emulator's
wait,
up.
2 minutes.
For the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you how to put a few widgets on the screen, and then I will go ahead and finish it out and start from there and add the code. So what we want to do is put a layout, which is going to undo that.
That's also proportional because it allows you to drag stuff into the position that it will be close to that when you bring up the app. If you don't, those widgets will be all over the place. That's something that's not apparent when you first start using this stuff.
And extend the entire screen.
That's also a trickier thing than in Windows. It's a much
And
easier
I'm going
thing
to
to add widgets on and move them
three
into place and it stays.
buttons. One. And two.
That palette is also much better than in older versions of Android Studios. I mean, it was there, but it was shaky.
Three.
This is more like Windows. You can tell I'm fond of Windows.
Now, placing these on the screen can be fairly tedious.
So you're running quad core?
Huh?
A quad core computer here?
It's this one. This is, I think,
Now I'm going to
dual core.
change
It's not quad core.
designations on these buttons.
It's got a fast processor. 12 gig of
what
memory.
they're actually going to do in the app. And I'm going to change display name and also the code name.
This is also very close to the way you do it on Windows with Visual Basic. Visual Basic is sort of the model of doing stuff easy. So if you've used Visual Basic, this kind of stuff, it's intuitive.
The ID for this button should be TN calculator. And the calculator tells the function, and the BTN says that it's a button. Now I need to change the text associated with it. Scroll down. Find, well, let's see, there should be a better way. Text. And the text should be calculate. And the next button is going to be clear. Properties, instead of button 2, it will be BTN clear. And this is so you can identify this button in the code without confusion.
What does, BTN stands for button?
Button.
I got you.
So if you had a whole lot of code and you saw that, you know it's a button, and
Yes,
you know what it's for.
got you.
The text is going to be
This is the stuff I try to get my kids to do.
Now, it doesn't name the button on the screen, but you know, you gotta name that in another
Yeah,
option.
that property is it's connected to the button on the
Yeah,
screen.
I see what you're, I know
Visual
what you-
Basic though, you know, again,
yeah, I see what he's doing.
my kids, they want to just stick, it could be 1, 2, 3, they don't care.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go through all that.
but if someone needs to go back and audit it, they're it's spaghetti.
You know, if
Can't
you work for somebody that has code inspection.
In a hell of a world here.
What am I looking at? I can't tell what I'm looking at.
Yeah. We've seen code like that.
Yeah.
Can't make heads or tails out of how it actually works. It's magic.
Yeah.
Just to let the smoke out.
That's the, we got, my mind's slipping.
Heck, even the person writing it at 6 months later, they're not gonna remember.
You know, that's hard.
That's probably activity.
It might be a bigger one than what you really want.
Yeah, the XML is similar
That
for,
kind of latitude.
it's actually similar to
control
what you have.
running
in
Linux.
Windows.
Let's go back.
These are good machines. Solid.
Side.
Yeah.
I should have known where that was,
Change to something else so I can identify it.
but I had messed up there, which is why I didn't recognize where it was. So then I gave it something that's in my memory. Then I go to the layout, the text layout, and find it.
There's the text view with the
And
hello
this is
world.
sort of the hassle of trying to teach this, that you don't really have time. It's gotta fit to get.
Side.
That's this
What I
reason
want to do now.
is why I went and started using MIT Studio to do
Text view
Android stuff.
that,
I just found it to be a pain in the butt to do.
twice.
It's one of those things, like, we talk about this all the time. These things that you wrestle with, and then you finally figure it out. It's okay.
Oh, it's not as hard as I thought it was.
Not as hard as I was making it.
And we have, graph content.
This was the thing I really did like about it,
Wanted to match.
that you could go and do a drop down, change configuration and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of like in the beginning, you just need to know all this stuff and you need to type it in. You need to have, it's just like with DOS, you need to have all this magic. Or with Unix,
Yeah.
you needed to know.
And,
There's no helper.
add some text to it.
Goes up to the man page.
That was a good thing about Unix, the man page. The man page and the actual code.
Display.
Because if you're in doubt, you can go look at the code.
Right to what I want. Okay.
There's usually a laptop or something sitting next to my desktop, especially if I'm doing something I've never done with the man pages.
TXT. Say, wait, LB, Cal. Then I'm going to change the text to 75. Ticket.
And I'm gonna say that this kind of thing is much faster with Windows. I
75.
mean, if you've ever done Visual Basic, you know, it's like,
Let's see, that's done. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to center it. So I go to text alignment. There is a button here, a drop-down box. And I click on center. And I've centered the text. since it takes a little while to get this done, I'm going to put the rest of the widgets on the screen outside of this video. And then I'm going to grab the Java code, add the Java code, then connect the app up to the buttons.
There's a method for
I've added
each button.
5 more widgets to the screen. And I'm showing you this again because I want to show you how you get a picture into the app. So I've copied a picture. And I'm going to go over to Resources, RES, drop this down. And I'm going to select Drawables, which is where images go. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to paste. And okay. And there's my JPEG. And if I can see my JPEG. Okay, so let's go back to test design. I think what I'll do is I'll do the debug again so that you can see it.
And that wasn't something that was obvious either. Because I expected to just see it.
It's my video coming up. And it's loading. Doesn't have my app, so let's pause.
I think I haven't set the source.
What I need to do is to add source of the image I want included. So I select here, go to properties, I need to view all, and I need to go down quite a bit. Source. There is SRC. I will search for it. And there's Iverson. Click on him. And let's do another run with the debugger. It's coming up. And there's our picture. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do, as I said before, is show you the code. And the code has already been written. I'm not going to spend the time typing it. And we'll talk about it as I go.
It's a good idea to get your user interface straight before you mess with the code.
A Java file, which contains the code that drives the app.
There's a main activity, and you can add Java files if you want specialized
It
things.
says
So
extends app add activity. And this is actually a base class that is this class starts with all the capabilities that are there, and it extends it. We have 3 methods that were added for this particular application.
1 method per button.
One was the public class for the calculator that does arithmetic to get the ticket price. And we have a class, or a method, I'm sorry, that clears the UI, that is the fields where you enter data. It just clears it. And for example, what's happening here is you're finding this total ticket text box, and you're setting it to double quotes, which is nothing. And you're doing the same thing with the number of tickets, and you're setting it to nothing. We have another method that just applies the discount. And if, let's find it. Okay, if the number of tickets is greater than 20, we're going to apply a 20% discount. So that's just 0.2 times whatever the amount was. And if the ticket amount, the total ticket amount, is greater than or equal to 10, that is between 10 and 20, the discount is 10%. And we fall through in the else case, and we do nothing if it's because you don't get a discount. And the reason that works is because initially the discount was set to 0. And what you do here is you set the ticket amount to subtract the discount. And then what this statement does is it sets the text box on the UI to the new ticket amount. And in case of errors, we're going to do a stack print, and that can be used for troubleshooting.
There's one of these templates that you can put that catch try.
There's some other
put the template in there and
code
fill your code in.
that was generated when we created the blank app. And I won't get into that because it's something that the tool gives you, and you don't need to question it unless there's a problem. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is actually run the app in the debugger and demonstrate that it works. What you see here is the basketball ticket app, and it has all the fields. Well, too many fields are the ones where your calculations results are, and the number of tickets that you enter. And so the first thing I do is just clear this. And now let's put a ticket amount in. Put in 9. And calculate. And for 9 tickets, it's going to cost $670.50. And then I'm going to go through trying to get a discount for it. And you'll notice that nothing changes because you don't get a discount. So let's clear it again. And I'll put in 25 tickets. And let's calculate. And we get 1857.
I think I said that wrong.
And so
but
now I'm gonna
I wasn't gonna do it
apply
over.
for my discount and I'll get results. And it's 1510. And this will be a application that will be done in the second week of the BDPA computer camp. And with time, they will add, students will add more functionality. And since we'll have a lot more time to this video, I'll have more time to spend on the code. I hope you enjoyed seeing this, and in the future, I'll probably go with another iteration. I will put a link to this app on the BDPA-camp-Cincy, sorry, BDPA-camp.org website. So, hope you enjoyed this, and hope you get into our studio soon.
Okay, that was it.
Cool. This is it.
And it's on YouTube. You can put the link in the notes. Oh, very cool. You want to?
Okay.
I'll send you the link.
Okay.
It was an experience. What I really intend to, because I'm really into the Internet of Things, and I want to be able to put video in an app and also do network connections. That's considerably more effort, but I need to at least get this far before I can start thinking about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Looks great.
The also on the meeting announcement page, you'll see there's information from last week. I'll retain his information and put that link in there for you. And also there's a GitHub link also maintained by our illustrious Vice President Leroy.
I'm not the one that maintains it.
You're not
There's
the one
a
that-
few
That's
others.
right, but somebody else maintains it. But you keep a lot of junk there.
I do keep watching.
And also we have pages, folders for individuals that do a lot of activities, and you can, like he could put his information in his folder, in Frank's folder. You'll notice there's a list of members down there, and if you want your own folder and you want to put stuff up there, it's made to put stuff up there for people to find if it's useful. And
Or to find, even if it's not useful.
Eye of the beholder, right?
It takes a lot. I'm not as disciplined as most at doing that. It's a good idea, but I'm just bad at doing it. I confess.
As long as you document.
yeah.
See, what I do is I have these notes. Whenever I do anything, I make notes. But then before you put notes out there, you have to make sure that they're right.
Right.
But if I do it, it can be all over the place.
But if you guys ever produced a video like he produced a video here, that is work.
Yeah.
That is work.
There's a lot of doing stuff over, I'll tell you that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you had to do stuff over in a video if you haven't broken it up into sections.
I break it up into sections.
Oh, okay.
But
And learn how to put stuff together. That helps
Do you
tremendously.
storyboard it before you?
I kind of do that. But the thing is that as you do it, you're not thinking, for instance, if you made a mistake and you said something wrong, you don't know it until much later. So you got this thing, that's all wrong. I mean, you thought you said the right thing.
Yeah.
I used to write stuff down, and in order to check it, I was writing a test or whatever, or a letter or whatever, and then play it back, and go to the audio and play it back. and you go, oh crap, I can't believe I wrote that. Of course, you got the people that read my meeting announcements, they kind of get abused. Anyway.
And see, what I remember is it's not when I first started work, but after I worked for a while, documentation was how you got paid. You know, you got paid by how many memos you wrote on the projects that you worked on. And so you didn't do 10 memos this year. No, I can't give you a raise.
Wow.
It was a kind of research development kind of company anyway. That's how they value you. What did you write? What did you publish?
A lot of what I find, there's a lot of documentation that I've done and some other people have done, and a lot of what I find, the IDEs have changed, the processes have changed. So even when you go back and you look at the old documentation, stuff just isn't the way it was.
It was right at the time.
Yeah, it was right at the time, and sometimes I came across something not too long ago, and I had to go back to one of the old IDEs because that was the only way I was ever going to get the thing to work.
Where I work, we have that problem. We don't do version control of documentation. It kind of, documentation just sort of evolves. But of course, the product code is version controlled, but you know.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I myself am pretty bad about. The documentation just sits there and stagnates while everything else just sort of changes. But
One of my special areas, everybody kind of has their special areas. I am if you don't have any projects for next week, I do it. And so that's my motivation for them to get projects. And, you know, it keeps the pressure on. My specialty is security cameras. So I got 2 new security cameras this week. The SV3C, it's wireless now. I did a PoE, a camera a couple of weeks ago. And now I've got the 960p Wi-Fi. I paid like $45 a piece for 2 of them, and they're just like the others. They seem to have a quality picture, easy to set up. And of course, with the SV3C company, whoever that is, they of course had a new Android app to set it up with, and all the software is totally different. And the only common point is they all work on iSpy.
sorry.
So this is on VIF. It's a new pseudo standard that people are writing with. There must be a chipset. Oh, and I also found you can buy the whole board. I see what they're doing. They're taking this little board that you can buy, and I have to set up I have to go to a new page. I see. Do it here. I should do something, one would think. And there they are.
Oh, okay.
That's it. And what you need is a power supply and a couple of connections,
On there.
and that's it.
And
You
a
put
little
that in a
case.
box.
And a little case.
And a little case, it does.
What size is that? I can't tell from the picture. What are we counting?
Well, the lenses are normally about that big around.
Okay, wow. All right.
So these things are getting out there. That's the entire kit on VIF compatible, ready to go. I assume you can use the standard software to configure it. It's got the network connections. You got to wire it up to the connector if you're going to use a connector, and wire up the push button to reset it if you use an external reset button, and a power supply connection and antenna, and you're done. And so that's why these little cameras are coming in for $45 for a 960p camera, and they're looking pretty nice.
You have to have a cable.
Yeah, you have to have the cable. These came in with the old style, what I call the old style. It had a reset button, because the new ones didn't have a manual reset. This one has a manual reset button and a power cable and RJ45 on the dongle. They have a standard dongle they use with these, by the way. So you just wire up the standard dongle and put an antenna on it, and you're set. Find a case.
Yeah.
And so that's why these things are so darn cheap. $45 for a Wi-Fi surveillance camera, 960p, nice color, just all set up.
Waterproof.
Waterproof, IP66
That is a big deal.
case. Yeah, oh yeah. Let's see, let me pull up one of these guys for you.
Is there any part of the world left unsurveilled?
Fortunately, I can talk to these things about, with Jeremy's not here this week. He's our security guy. Or he'd have to tell you about these not being terribly secure. The way you can tell it's not terribly secure, one of the ways is you put the camera up, you set it up, and no matter where it is, you can find it outside. You don't have to put a port or a server or anything. It will find it. And there's one, this is a PoE there. Yeah, it's PoE for $40. And that's the 1080p, that'd be the 1 megapixel, right? These are 960p, which is probably more than 1 meg. I don't know what that would be. Oh, it's 2? 960p, I don't know. So there's one of them. The one I got is the Wi-Fi version. It looks just like that, except it's got an antenna on the side of it. And you load an Android app and say, go find it. And it goes and finds it. And then you plug in a password for whatever account you want to use, and it does DHCP. My trick for the day was, the hardest part for me is I use iSpy, free software, and to get the correct entry for that. But they have that. That's why I buy the SV3C. They always tell you how to set it up for iSpy. Picture's pretty. I replaced one of my old cameras today with one of these puppies, and just a dream.
I can see the sparkle in your eye.
Oh yeah. Leroy, you're doing next week. What you got on your brain for next week?
Programming the Raspberry Pi using the Arduino IDE and the Particle Cloud IDE. They've opened the part. It's still in beta and there's still problems with it, but they've opened it up to a public beta test. So all you need is a Raspberry Pi. You get a key from them and you set it up. You can program it.
I think I asked you about that probably 2 months ago. Why would I care about a particle cloud? What do you get?
It's a cloud IDE. It's Particle made, well, it used to be Spark. They made these little things called Spark cores, which was a Wi-Fi. It's one of the first Wi-Fi microcontrollers.
In the things.
Yeah, and their thing was how similar it was to Arduino. So it was easy to port all your Arduino code over it, but it was all done online. And originally it wasn't as easy as they made it out to be, but it got better. So they opened the infrastructure up to using third-party microcontrollers, and there's a bunch of third parties. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, they said that they were going to try a beta with the Raspberry Pi, so you could program a Raspberry Pi 2 or 3 with the IDE, basically as easy as using the Arduino IDE. I've ran into a couple of problems with it, but it's nothing that I think they're going to fix it because they seem to have fixed all the other problems.
What would make me give up to ESP8266?
Well, okay.
If you can't think of anything.
The particle, the spark core, the photon, the other, they've all got analog pin inputs, where the ESP only has one.
Yeah, the small one.
The 8266 only has one. The ESP32 has a bunch of analog, so there's that. But I think it's a matter of what you're actually wanting to accomplish, which might it's always the same. Which microcontroller?
It really seemed like when I was reading about this, they were trying to get to big companies
Yeah.
to use this.
Yeah.
Whereas Arduino goes all the way down the line.
Yeah.
You've got everybody.
Well, it really comes down to what microcontrollers suited best for the application.
And that is an article that's in your meeting announcements, why people choose what processor.
Yeah,
It was a good article.
I mean, you can prototype with like the Arduino stuff, but Arduino may not be the right one for the actual final product.
It might not. It just, I don't know. Didn't seem like that was something that I wanted to bother with, or because I know this guy P&G, and actually he was doing some experimenting with it, and he tried to get me to use it. And then that's when I asked you.
Right.
And I still didn't decide that I wanted to bother.
Well, I own like 6 or 7 different things that are compatible with Particle Cloud, and I still use. I like the ESP stuff. I like the Arduino stuff. I still use it more than I use the other stuff. It's just an option. It's just there. I can do it if I want to. And I see a reason to have both. ESP 8266s and even the 32s, they're just cheap. And if you blow one up, who cares?
And if you're going to sell it at mass market, you want the cheap stuff.
Get your margins up there.
Yeah.
I think being able to write sketches for the Raspberry Pi makes that Raspberry Pi a whole lot more interesting to me.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi is interesting. The problem becomes power.
I really never I owned a bunch of Raspberry Pis and I never used them until Google came out with that AI.
But see,
thing.
it's Linux. If you want to, you can go haul wild and what kind of applications.
Well,
We
but
had an old TV that wasn't a smart TV that for $50 now on a Raspberry Pi, and now it's a smart TV.
Yeah. I'm a Linux person. I never found much use for the Raspberry Pi. I mean, when Google said that, I started playing with it. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know it's going to be great. It just takes a lot of effort. It's like you want to do something in a week, and so if you take 2 months, well, maybe.
Well, see, that's just it. Like, if you like you have before a couple of times have thrown an idea out, and within a couple of days I can get it done with an Arduino. But if I had to do it with a Raspberry Pi or something, I was like.
And then, this business with I/O, the Arduino is sort of direct with I/O, and you have this operating system running, and it may get done sometime, but it's harder to control it. Then with the Arduino, it's like I turn a pin on, it's on. I don't have to wait for the operating system to say, oh, it's time.
Well, I started messing with this. I started messing with the using the IDE probably a month ago, and I found interesting things, but it's not perfect. It's not anywhere close to being right yet. So it'll be fun to play with it and see what we can do and blow up a Raspberry Pi. That's why I'm going to bring a Zero in. So if we blow up the Zero, it's only $5.
So over at Fidelity, did you get into any of this stuff?
Try to what?
I said, do you get into any of this stuff over at Fidelity?
No, not stuff with like Raspberry Pis and things like that.
I mean, you guys are not doing Internet of Things?
Not yet.
Well, you're talking about it a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've read a little bit about Internet of Things, but not in any of our projects at Fidelity.
Most companies who are very serious, who don't have a lot of money, they don't dive in. You know. Even then, they have like a research group and try this, try that, because that's what they're doing at P&G.
Well, there's still too much security issues that haven't been
Yeah,
addressed
that's a big problem.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is kind of a thought process. Some things, it's not a, you know, if it's turning on a light on the porch or something like that, it's not a big deal. If you're opening and closing the locks,
Yeah.
you need to think about it a lot. It's still possible, but it takes a lot more thought.
Right.
And usually people don't want to spend any money on security because I'm not getting anything. They'd rather pay this person who's hacked your stuff and got all your data, or I'll pay him. I'll pay him $100,000 now.
We kind of said the same thing, you know, when I had the smart thermostat. Who really cares if they see that my house is sitting at 70 degrees or whatever? I really don't care.
But if they can turn the thermostat up and down,
That becomes the issue, yeah. Turn your stove on and off.
Yeah.
Turn your refrigerator on and off.
I put a new smart bulb in the bedroom, and it's going. I looked. It's going through Amazon Web Services, but ultimately it's ends up in somewhere in China, and you know it's just not secure after it leaves Amazon Web Services.
That's kind of one of my pet peeves. Anything that's Internet of Things that has to go to a server in China, I really don't want to be bothered.
Nope. No. That's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes a trip through Amazon Web Services first, so that's good.
Well, Amazon actually,
Is it?
before you connect to them, they require a certain amount of security.
Yeah. That's why it's.
My problem with Amazon and Google is both of them have contracts with the federal government, and as a federal contractor, you don't need a warrant. You're already an employee, so I've been down that road before. So I don't worry about the Chinese or the Russians. I'm worried about Amazon and Google.
Well, I worry about the Chinese. One way, if you depended on it, it could just go away just like that. The other thing is that I don't know who controls these things.
Right.
So they could get in there and they say, okay, if we just want to, like I have my garage door open on the web, you know, we could just take the garage door up and down to remove the motor. You know?
Yeah.
There's a guy over in China laughing at you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We just made him buy a new garage door opener from us.
Yeah.
It's actually a great topic though. It's security for these things, with the Internet of Things, because you can't spend right now the interfaces and the chips, everything is cheap. You don't want to spend $100 on security and $20 on the device. You know, I mean, you don't want to do that, but
I actually have a presentation on that.
Really?
oh, what you do?
That's why I was hesitating to mention it.
So when you wanted that?
I
week
don't
after
know my
that?
availability yet,
Yeah.
but if I can make it back next week, I'll see what I can commit to. But yeah, because I do that. My boss and I go around to like the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary clubs and that for the lunches, and you know it's one of those we'll talk for food. So.
You're on the rubber chicken circuit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Trying to promote the school. So. I'll let you know.
Just remember, if you don't volunteer, I wouldn't show up around here very much. You'll end up watching some more surveillance camera crap.
That's right. Well, yeah.
Gotta be careful.
He hasn't seen the trash can.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, oh,
Trash
gosh,
can
I was here
transport.
for that.
Trash
I was
can
here for
transport.
that.
Well, that's,
It
There's-
keeps
there's a-
evolving.
That's about the last time I was here. So.
Keeps
Oh, it's
evolving.
still going. I got 2 years on that.
Oh, wow.
The latest thing was the built wheel with the built-in motor.
Uh-huh.
I ordered the controllers with the built-in aluminum heat sinks, and the order went away.
Oh,
I think
wow.
he decided he didn't want to do that.
oh,
It was the same price as a regular controller. I think Steve set me up for that. One of the guys set me
Yeah.
up for that. I ordered it and it went away. Oh, it would have been great. Now I
it
got
was cheap. It was cheap, wasn't it? Like $10.
It was
or
the
something?
same price as the others, like 11
Yeah.
bucks. So I got to find the heat sink for those two for the controllers.
That's why it went away, because it was too cheap.
Yep.
Um,
Probably there at twice the price now.
I went up to Mendelssohn's first time in, I don't know, 7 years maybe, and walked around up there. Saw a bunch of, they've got a bunch of little DC motors, yay big. They've got them cheap, like $5, and they're the good solid DC motors that they're a little bit smaller than what came out of that scooter. So, they're good motors.
Okay.
They had them up there for like $5 or $6. I thought about grabbing a bunch of them.
Yeah, but the wheel mechanism, the assembly is, I bought the whole wheel assembly. What did I pay for those? $40?
Yeah.
The wheel assembly motor, all you need is a controller. It has the built-in, it's a DC motor, permanent magnet type, so you don't need anything, and you can step it through, and they have the controller built. It has the sensors in it, the speed sensors. What do you call those?
The Hall
Hall
effects.
effects. Have the Hall effect built in, ready to go. All you gotta do is clamp it on your device, and away you go.
The little pulse.
The Mendelssohn's has a bunch of stuff up there. I was shocked.
They still got tubes.
Yeah, I was actually shocked, because it had been 7 years, and I walked through, and they still had some of the same stuff that I remember
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
up there.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you guys haven't gotten rid of this stuff yet?
At some point, it's got to be worth 6 cents a pound, right?
Right. Well, that's how he got it. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
he don't care if it sits there forever.
Yeah, he really doesn't.
He was able to sell the
Buys it
ballpark.
as scrap.
Yeah,
Well,
he was able to sell the real estate for the ballpark. He don't care.
Yeah, it's right across the street.
Yeah.
they had some big AC motors up there too. Yeah, double shaft AC motors, and I thought, well, those would be great, except they're AC motors.
Yeah.
The three-phase DC motors is what they are,
Mhm.
and which is nice. And that's where everything's going now. They're getting away from the AC motors.
Yep.
Because, if you have single phase in your house, you got to have a starter mechanism built into them.
Yep.
So all the later model high efficiency furnaces now are going to be using the three-phase DC motors, AC driven DC motors.
Mhm.
It's because they've gotten cheap.
Are they gonna be reliable?
Should be.
They're talking about a breakthrough in batteries again, going from the lithium going back to magnesium ion, I believe, and having much cheaper batteries.
I bet those things are cool to watch them burn.
Yeah, well, the lithiums are fun too.
All you gotta do is crack them and you got a problem.
So they're talking about banning some of the smart luggage
Yeah.
The luggage that follows you,
Right.
or luggage that has a USB charger in it or whatever because of the lithium batteries.
Well,
They've always been picky about
that's
those.
our excuse. The main thing is they don't want you to know where your luggage really is.
Yeah,
when
but they don't know where it is. That is
That's
probably
true.
more the truth.
We don't want to bring the truth into this.
We don't know where your luggage is, but it makes it,
Because
Where
of
you
the
are
vortex
sometimes.
and it's supposed to come out.
If they couldn't find the 737 in the middle of the Indian Ocean there a few years ago,
Oh, there you
Malaysian
go.
Airlines plane.
Yeah, that's right. We still haven't found that out.
Yeah.
And they're probably